Hello, everyone. I am here today to shed light on an independent group that does not have a lot of recognition independently or mainstream. The British group Aquilo. They are a British duo from the Lake District in England, consisting of Tom Higham and Ben Fletcher. As far as I'm aware, Tom is the one who does the predominant vocals on the most of these projects, with Ben doing more backing vocals. Though I do believe he does have moments where he also sings and they duet, but he's a little bit more of the instrumentalist, with Tom being the lead vocalist. This is a group that came onto my radar back in 2016. So when new age electronic artist Enigma put out his album, The Fall of a Rebel Angel, there was a song on it called Amen at the very end of the record, and it featured a hauntingly beautiful male vocal. And I was like, who is this? Who is this artist? And it was Tom Higham of Aquilo. And at that point, they had only put out a few singles and an EP, and they were getting ready to release their debut album called Silhouettes, which came out in the winter of 2017. And I really got into that record. It's a really slow burning, mid tempo, dream pop kind of alternative dreamscape of a record. It's very crepuscular. It's reminiscent of its title. Very beautiful vocal layering, very soft piano work, very soft and stirring and emotional vocal deliveries. The song Almost Over from that record was my third favorite song of 2017, if you ever watched that video, that ranking video, which I think is no longer on my channel because it got copyright stricken. But anyway, another story. With that being said, I have not talked about them on this channel yet, and surprisingly so, besides that time I mentioned them in that ranking video. They since released another album in 2018, which was actually split into two APs that they combined eventually into a full record, which was called The Roman Numeral 2, kind of standard title, which definitely veered a little bit more into the soft rock, country territory. It was a lot more acoustic, with a little bit less of the airy sort of ambient keyboard synth work that we've come to be accustomed for them, as well as like really aching piano ballads. And I was a little disappointed with that project, but I also appreciated their artistic evolution. You know, I wasn't necessarily fawning over every single song off of their debut record anyway. I always considered, them to be an artist I would pay attention to, but I would just, respect and move on if I didn't find their music to be my taste anymore. But then they came out with this new project. They actually put out an EP in between in 2020 called Sober, which had some, I think, teasers of what was to come for them. And this new project is a real return to form. This is their third studio album, and it is called A Safe Place to Be. And it was just released this last Friday, October 15th. And I decided I wanted to give this a quick little review because no one's really talking about this group. They deserve a lot more recognition, and they are definitely overshadowed by a lot of other acts. So I felt like they deserved a little bit of a shout out. From the lead single called Out in LA, which came out this summer, there was definitely a feeling of a much more kind of produced, polished pop record coming out for them. Out in LA is something that a song sort of meditating on the grass is always greener concept of, well, when we're in Silverdale, which is their hometown in the Lake District in England, everyone's always dreaming about going to a sunnier, warmer Los Angeles. And then when they finally got to go to Los Angeles and they were touring and they had albums out and they got a little bit of a taste of what it was like to be a, successful musician, they realized that they weren't enjoying it as much as they thought. They found it to be, of course, beautiful in the sun and kind of lackadaisical, but they found themselves more and more just feeling very homesick. They felt so they weren't really connecting with the culture and the ambiance, and they wanted to just go back to Silverdale. And so coming back to that town, especially over the holidays, always had this extra sentimentality for the both of them. And they decided to create a lot of these songs based off of that feeling of finding that place or safe haven of home that can be either your literal birthplace or some other figurative or physical place that you feel the most at home in, that is this sort of cozy cocoon that definitely is sort of a protector from the harshness and the sort of dissonance that you might have with the comings and goings of reality. I found it really interesting how in the music video and in the album art, they employ this model of their hometown village that I guess this artist they worked with created. And then what they do in the Out in LA video, which I find very clever, is they kind of slowly take parts because it sort of fits together like a puzzle, this miniature model of their town. They take parts away, like different parts of the landscape, and they add in palm trees, little miniature, slices of Los Angeles, the sort of barren, tropical, fake tropical, though, it's not really tropical, it's more desert than anything else. LA landscape into this, northern England kind of wet and dreary mountain town. And so as they go through the music video, they play around with these models and figuring them together. And then they slowly take the LA parts away again to sort of signify the transition that they made to LA and then the realization that actually what they want was always back home more so than ever. And that they would definitely like to be more home-based going forward. And so I find it just to be a really, really sweet tribute and a beautiful way to illustrate the feeling of, where you go as a young adult and finding your roots in the place that you feel most comfortable. The music video, the song, everything about it is very whimsical. It's very lackadaisical in that regard. If you feel like you have your sunglasses on, just sort of sitting on the beach in a recliner. The piano chords are very simple, very repetitive, but that's not really something that hinders this song, I believe, because the vocal layering is very haunting, it's very ambient, and that's something they carry very much through the rest of this project. The second single, Our Bones Turn to Stone, focuses a lot more on Tom's vocals and on the piano work. And they also use a miniature model of Silverdale, although they kind of do this interesting thing in the music video where they show seed's eye view of plants growing in a greenhouse, which I find to be also just like a really beautiful illustration of nature and the primal essence of the spiritual essence, if anything, of what life really is. This is their most meditative record to date. It is very spiritual, and yet at the same time, it's very guy next door, singing about relationships going sour, feelings of, understanding friend groups and moving on from things they once were a part of, figuring out where they're going with their life. It's such a beautiful blend of just a really fun hometown kind of tribute to the feelings of being in your 20s and, struggling with all of these different things we all struggle with. On Talking to Yourself, there's a playful, sort of like running uphill sort of energy to the piano chords. Again, somewhat simple, but there's an elegance to the piano chords on this one. There is something so much about the vocal manipulation or the softness of the way they hum. They strip down their vocals to being this resonant sort of humming chord that they overlay very beautifully on a lot of their tracks. Reminiscent of like the Beach Boys, for example, but in a softer manner. And so everything is a little bit muted. You don't get any chords that come really crashing down. You don't also get many moments where there's a real puncture through that with guitar riffs that, draw that attention to it. And so for some people, this album might be a little bit sleepy. And yes, I think there are some songs that maybe meander a little too amelodically, maybe could have used a little bit more oomph in the backing production. Songs like Costume Change, for example, or even the ending of Better Off as Strangers, I really love the build-up with the melancholic melody of that song, but then I feel like it starts to veer off into just sort of aimless territory melodically that could have, I don't know, used a little bit more dynamic in terms of the highs and the lows. I think that this record is a, great just sort of vibe record. It's something that you might kind of tune in and out of occasionally, but the moments where you really pick into the sort of melancholic, introspective, haunting vocals that they give, which range from beautiful falsettos to very rich, crisp tenor vocals, are just something I think very pleasant, especially on like a fall afternoon. You Make Me Mad, again, one of the more upbeat songs on the record. I could have seen it being a single. Our Days Are Numbered has a little bit more of a jazzy twist to the melodic construction. I think one of my favorite songs, besides Our Bones Turn to Stone, would be Hanging On. Melodically, it's this featherweight sort of running riff that just feels very pining. On Stupid Not to Try, we get another very sort of featherweight meditation on the possibilities of something starting between two people. The feeling of trepidation of, is this the mistake? Is this a mistake? If I go too far, will this person respect me the way that I look up to me, the way I look up to them? I've been thinking over these words, worried you might see the truth. Honesty is something I choose, but look at you, too much to lose. Some say I will never be a vision in your eyes. Could we ever be? Can I be by your side? I'd be stupid not to try. Everything is telling, internally is saying this is probably not going to work out, but still showing up anyway and presenting yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to someone and seeing if they respond to it. And put your heart out there and see what happens, whether it might get trampled on. It's a vulnerable, very vulnerable position, and you can feel that oozing through the song here. The closing track, I Want to See You Smile, one of the most emotional songs on this record for me melodically, almost like a nursery rhyme melody, very simple, very poignant. I see you're standing there in someone else's room. Ain't it sad what we had went too fast? I've got a lot to say, still stuck in yesterday. Wide awake, your mistake, make or break. I want to close my eyes again. I just want to see you smile. And that fades out in the refrain to becoming this atmospheric ambient echo that Aquilo do brilliantly with their music. Again, expect soft, beautiful layered harmonies, beautiful kind of atmospheric ambiance with twinklings of piano keys thrown in. So there's a bit for everyone. I think if you want something that has a little bit more rhythm and percussion, songs like Our Days Are Numbered, Silver Spoon, You Make Me Mad, even out in LA to a certain extent, there are a little bit more of that. And then if you want the atmospheric, haunting ballads, I Want to See You Smile, Better Off as Strangers, Hanging On, Stupid Not to Try, Our Bones Turn to Stone. Our bones turn to stone, and our smiles all look the same. What a safe place to be. Look at me in a big bad dream. I have only me to blame. How the hell did it get this way? And the story starts the same. We're just teachers in a learning game. So tell me it's okay to hurt like it hasn't been said. I've been quietly dancing around with the words in my head. It's a waste of time in this waiting line, but I guess that's fine. What a long way to go. They say it's the science that keeps us down, and there's no place to go. I gotta do a little running to get back home. We're always at the very beginning and at the very end of our own story in this life, and our bones will turn to stone, become artifacts, ancient relics of who we were, a document. And I think that sort of is, in a way, a spiritual kind of metaphor for their hometown as being sort of a somewhat record of who they are, as like a marker for, their starting point in their journey. And oftentimes we do have to do a little running away in our lives to appreciate what home really is. There's nothing like feeling a true connection to your home until you've left it. If you've stayed with it your whole time, you're never going to fully appreciate it that way. Running away is part of the feeling of falling back in love with where you came from. There's an organic sense of growing in the arpeggios of the chords for this song and everything about it. I mean, again, it's very elegant. It's very graceful. And so for a band, two dudes putting out music like this, I don't know. I find it to just be I found it to be just something deserving of, that sort of spotlight for them putting out somewhat more feminine kind of haunting, introspective stuff when, if you look at their, social media accounts, they're really fun, goofy, playful guys. They're not just like completely brooding and like dark and reflective all the time. They do such a brilliant job of keeping that levity and exploring that in this record. And they almost didn't make this record. They were thinking about going and making a completely different band. That was sort of the process of creating this record. Then they realized that, oh, we're actually making another Aquilo album. So these songs are going to go on this project. And I hope that they continue on this sort of path and direction. Of course, experimentation is always good, but I'll always have a place, especially I think in the autumn, fall kind of time of year, for this delicate and aching balladry. So let me know your thoughts if you checked out this group and if I'm exposing you to it for the first time. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think of the record. And I will see you all in my next one. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed day. Peace, love, and light. Bye.